Gentlemen, we are live.
Good evening, everybody. This is Big Bill coming to you live from the YouTube Model Builders live channel. It's October 21st, 2017.
Good evening, everybody. This is
oh, wait, I know what I got to do.
Yeah, mute.
I always make that mistake. I'm so sorry. Let's start over again. Hey, everybody. Welcome to YouTube Model Builders for October 21st, 2017. Tonight's guest is a good and favorite friend, Troy from Pacific North Central Railroad. Troy was on the show and is a member of YTMB. And when was it? 2 years now, right, Troy?
Yes, it's been 2 years. Last year we did a show on the layout.
Right. 2 years ago, Troy decided to take down the layout that he had, which was an N-scale layout. And he went with Bill Baronic, the track planner, and they designed this layout, HON3, am I correct?
Yes. HON3.
And then last year, Troy was on, and he showed us the layout itself, how far he got in the construction. He showed us the electrical panel that was underneath. And this year, coming up on 2 years, October 28th, is that correct?
Yes, October 28th will be 2 years from the beginning of the build.
That's right. October 28th, he has primarily laid about 95% of the track. All the track has been hand laid. All the switches are custom made. And he's going to give us a little bit of a tour with that. Also appearing tonight is our good friend, Steve Montgomery, his railroad, the Carroll Valley Railroad. He's been on with us before. Last time he was on, he was doing the switching. I forget what you call it, Steve.
Time saver.
Time saver, yes, the time saver. He was doing the time saver, and then previously, before that, his first appearance on YouTube Model Builders live show, we featured his layout, the Carroll Valley Railroad, and to which he has been exhibited in Model Railroad magazine. And so he came on with that. But also Steve's on the show because Steve has built and is continually building some of the structures that Troy will be using on his layout, and some of them, or most of them, have been truly good looking buildings and very detailed orientated. But before we get to the interview, let us, it's Saturday night, and me and Barry do the giveaways. So let us, can we bring those pages up?
Absolutely. Let me bring up the first one here right now, Bill.
Okay.
Yeah, it's on the screen.
Oh, the first one is a 3-month subscription to Railroad Model Craftsman from White River Productions. They're giving away a 3-month free starter subscription. I can't get, Barry, I gotta tell you, I can't buy these in the drugstore anymore.
No, you can't.
I gotta go to the dentist.
I know,
but I gotta spend money. Anyway, White River Production is giving away a free 3-month subscription to Railroad Model Craftsman.
All right, and our next one is up, Bill.
Yeah, we got a 30-second delay, so I'm filling time here. It's up because it takes a little bit.
There we go.
There we go. And from our good friends from Central Valley Model Works, we have the punch plate bridge kit. This is a 150-foot HO punch plate bridge kit from Central Valley Model Works.
And our next one should be coming up in a second.
Right. I got homework here. I got Dave's Decals. Dave's Decals is, if anybody who wins this, you win 2 choices of two sheets. And this guy has a plethora. Yes, I did say plethora of decals on his website. So go over to daveart.net, check out his decals. He's got plenty of stuff, and he also does custom work as well.
All right, and our next one's coming up, Bill.
Here we go, from Weathering Solutions. They're giving away 3 sheets, I believe, of decals. Any of these that you see. Rust, graffiti, oil stains, anything that you want to do. If you don't want to get into the, you know, of doing it yourself, painting it on with the oil paints and the everything that it entails, this is an easy way out. I've used some of these. I used the rust ones on some of the box cars, and they came out pretty good. Very well. They came out very well. So they're going to be giving away about 3 sheets, I believe, of this from Weathering Solutions.
And finally, the next one's coming up. Our new giveaway for this month.
Yes. Yeah, it's a 30-second delay. Oh, YouTube Model Builders probably presents from Ralph Renzetti is giving this away. It's extreme weathering of locos and rolling stock. Ralph has kindly donated this DVD. Ralph was on Trainmasters TV, and this is the product that came out of this. He did an excellent job, and he's giving away this DVD on extreme weathering of locomotives and rolling stock. So this is from Ralph Renzetti, and thank you very much for this, Ralph. It's greatly appreciated. And I know my son was walking behind me.
Okay.
But here I am. I'm back. Here I am. I'm back. Just wanted to keep. That's it for the giveaways, right? We only have
Yes, that's all the giveaways for this month. So.
Also, just to do a little homework, and I didn't do it in the beginning because I got thrown off when I had the speaker on the other thing. We got the YouTube Model Builders live show tonight, obviously, with our good guest, Troy, from Carroll Valley Railroad. And we also have Steve Montgomery. Oh, I'm sorry, Troy Pacific North Central Railroad, and Steve from Carroll Valley Railroad. Also, we have our e-magazine is coming out in November, and November being N, starting with N, will be an N scale. So the issue will be directed and entirely given over to the N scale, entirety, N scale, no HO at all, no Z, no G, no O, all N scale. The magazine is dedicated to the N scale. So the N scale is, there you go. Also on October 24th, which is this Tuesday, Ralph Renzetti will be hosting his first show on weathering, and I'm looking forward to that. I think that's going to be an excellent show. If anybody has seen Ralph Renzetti's work, you'll know it's nothing but par excellence, and it's right up there. It's one of the top tier guys that knows what he's doing, and when he does it well and does it extremely well. So he's going to be on October 24th. It's called Bench to Mainline. And that's going to be on at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then we go back into November. We'll have the Adreno Workshop and Fine Scale, and into the Locomotive Shop and the live show, and then back again with Ralph Renzetti. So that takes care of the homework, folks. And we'll repeat that at the end of the show so you can write it down as quickly as I talk. And since I'm from New York, I talk very fast. So get ready. So again, welcome Troy to the show. Welcome Steve to the show. I'm glad to have you guys back on the show. And Troy, you're now 2 years into this.
Yes, 2 years.
And where have we been, and where have we gotten to?
Well, I'm really close to starting up on my scenery. I'm at that point now where I have a lot of track laid. There's only just a few little sections that are left, which I cannot put in until I get the buildings actually installed. And some of the buildings, like the sawmill that's right back behind me, I cannot fully install the sawmill until I get scenery done back behind it. So therefore, I cannot go ahead and lay the rails going up into it. So I don't want to do any damage to the sawmill. So the sawmill is, Steve did up the sawmill for me, and that's done up on a piece of Homosote. So what I did was I cut out the Homosote and was able to go ahead and drop it down in there. So I have all the ties laid down and stuff to actually go up into it. But now instead of just running all the rail, I need to be able to pull the sawmill back out, get the scenery done back behind it, get it finished up, and then I can install it for its one last time. So it's back up there instead of its final resting home, along with like Montgomery's up here and my ice house over here, which was a custom build from Steve. Boy, I'll tell you what, this gentleman does some really beautiful work. Here's the ice house. This is all custom built. There's no directions for this at all, as far as I know. That this is not a kit. Am I correct, Steve?
No, it wasn't a kit. The plans were in Narrow Gauge Short Line Gazette first of this year, and that's I saw that, shot him the plans. He said he'd love to have it. So that is all scratch built, except for the 2 reefer cars. Those were kits.
That did look familiar to me.
Yeah, it was in, I think, January, February issue this year.
Beautiful job.
How long did something like that take you from start to finish?
Well, I don't just sit down and just continue straight through. I hit it when I can. So that was probably, you know, it took about 2 months. I don't know the actual time, but altogether it took about 2 months to building it. By the time I got it finished, I'm driving a school bus part time, and I got other stuff I'm doing too. So, but it was a fun build.
It sure looks like it's very detailed.
It is very detailed, and I'm really excited to go ahead and get lights up on this structure. I think it's really going to make everything just really pop out once when it's all lit up. I think lights really add to a layout.
I got a question for you, Troy. On the top deck there, it looks like there's like almost like 2 wooden rail tracks. What are they for?
Those are for the ice to be able to slide across.
Oh, that's what that's for. Okay, so it keeps the ice from sliding just generally everywhere. Okay.
Yeah, those are the guides.
Okay, gotcha.
Now those light stanchions, there you can light those lights up eventually.
Well, these, I believe these ones are the Campbell scale models, isn't it, Steve? The brass lampshades.
Yeah, I think that's what I used. Yeah.
Yeah. So what I'll have to do is I'll actually have to take them off and install either LEDs or that fiber optic cable. And I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to light this one here up yet. It's going to be a challenge, that's for sure, to go ahead and light this kit up. To try to go and keep the wires hidden or keep the wires so that they look nice and neat. It's not the easiest thing to go ahead and do to go ahead and light up a building, as I've learned that right there from my sawmill.
Oh, yeah.
As a sawmill, you can kind of see the wiring and how I had to add the wiring up over here to the top of the sawmill. I had to add cross bracing and then try to match the cross bracing to go ahead and match the existing of what was on there. So I learned a little bit when I did this kit and lit it all up. So hopefully the next one will go just a little bit easier.
Now, Troy, when you all the track on this, now this is HON3, correct?
Yes.
Now, for some of us like me, what is HON3?
It's narrow gauge to HO. It's what is it, the 3-foot gauge or whatever, I believe, to HO. It's still 1/87 scale, but it's narrow gauge. So all the buildings are all HO scale, but the trains are obviously a lot smaller. As a matter of fact, I had a friend of mine show up and wanted his locomotive to be programmed, and if you guys give me just a minute here, I'll see if I can go ahead and actually find that picture.
Take 2 minutes. We're all at Saturday night.
Yeah, it might take just a little bit here.
Hey, Bill.
Yes, sir.
While he's looking for that engine, let me explain something about that ice house.
Okay.
That is what that is. With his layout being at turn of the century, early 1900s, they did not have mechanical refrigeration.
Right.
So what they would do is they would bring in pond ice, and they brought it into those 2 reefers, and they would stock it or stack it in there, pack it in sawdust. And then as they needed the ice, they would take it out of the reefers, run it across the flooring, and it would go up the conveyor into the building and then shoot out onto the top deck. So that's not a mechanical, that is all pond ice. So he can have reefers bringing ice in to stock that up, and reefers taking it out again. Also, he can have boxcars with salt, can also have salt coming in because they put the salt on it to make it colder. So that is a pond ice icing facility. He had a mechanical one on there. He didn't like it. I built it. I didn't really like it. And when I saw that one, I thought that would be more, you know, more to his liking and to his era. So that's how that ended up on there.
Wally's Weathering says, absolutely gorgeous, Steve. Exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
AJ says, raise your hand if you now want to figure out how to add an ice house to your layout.
I did. I want to. I don't have the room, but I want to build one of those, but I can't.
And Ralph Renzetti, Troy, says, you need to use magnet wire. It's easier to run along rafters and the like, and much easier to work with.
Yes, that is what I use, was magnet wire.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a 1,000-foot spool, I believe, of magnet wire, which I just went ahead and picked up a big spool of it, being that I had a lot of structures to go ahead and light up. It does work really nice. As far as the icing facility and stuff, I want to really look good. I want to look like it's, you know, the way it should be.
Right. I agree. Mark Turner wants to know, Steve, what type of glues do you use, and what applicators are used in the building process to keep from making a mess and having strings and excess glue hanging off the building?
I use, it's a wood glue, Tight Bond, I think it is, yellow carpenter glue. I get it at the big box store. I use toothpicks. I stain my wood before I glue it together. I use very little glue, just enough to clamp it, to hold it. I use weights and clamps on everything. And anything critical, I usually let it dry at least 4 to 6 hours. But always stain your wood before you glue it together.
So it's not a hurry up and let's move on. Like glue it. Okay, let's go to the next one. It's patience.
Well, yeah, it depends on what I'm building. If I can, when I look at a kit, or if I'm going to scratch build something and I've drawn it up, or I get the plans and I look at it and I think, okay, I break it down into sub-assemblies. So I will work, like, say, on that. I laid out the deck and I started building it. And as I'm waiting for it to dry, I moved on to the house structure itself. And then that was a separate component. The conveyor system, the ramp with the chains and everything, that was a separate structure. And then, of course, I had the 2 reefer cars to build. That was separate. So I would have them, I could work on this one for a little bit. By that time, this assembly over here is ready for a little bit more work. And then, I may not even work on it for a couple days, maybe get down, work on it for an hour or so, depending on what my schedule here at the house is. But I always try to work in sub-assemblies, so if I get into a spree where I can really go at it, I'm not really held up.
Right.
So
right. That makes sense. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Toothpicks, clamps, stain first, paint first, whatever you're going to do. And then as little as glue as possible. But like I said, I use that, and I believe it's a Tight Bond. I can go in and get it. And in fact, when Troy's talking about those engines, I'll run in there and get it and show it to you what I use. And I also use like a super glue, and I use, what is it, Walther's Goo and that Ambroid stuff. And, you know, it depends on really what I want to do with it. But my main go-to is my yellow wood glue.
Right, right. And Troy, this, what you're showing here is a comparison of the HON3 engine as well as the...
Yes, as the HO, yes.
And the HO next to it. Yeah, that's a big comparison. Yeah, that's you know, that's absolutely...
Yeah, the one right next to it, that's a 2662 articulated next to a C19, which C19s are a little bit smaller than the K27s, but it is a really big size comparison in between the two for what you actually use and what you run, you know.
Right.
And with what I was doing before, I loved N scale, you know, and I couldn't see it no more. And I love steam engines. And I'll tell you, you know, there's only a few makers in N scale that can make a really reliable locomotive. So I chose to go ahead and go with narrow gauge and went with HON3.
Now your narrow gauge railroad, it's still going to be called the Pacific North Central?
Yes, it is the Pacific North Central. I actually have emblems actually made up for the layout, which I really love how they actually turned out. Let's see here if I have one here. I got them someplace.
And now you started this build in 2 years ago?
Yes. Yes, October 28th of 2015 is when the actual build started, and that was with just the bench work. And then it just kind of went from there. It just kept right on growing. Here they are.
And those are trains running in the background.
Yes. February, I'm trying to think of February 8th at 10:30 p.m. was the first train that actually ran on the layout throughout the entire main. I actually had the main line complete. February 8th at 10:30. This is the actual logo. Yep, sure does.
Is that the one I did for you?
Yeah, but it has been enhanced because the lettering. I got the lettering all nice and square up on there.
Nice.
This is actually a big one that's going to go on the outside wall of the layout room.
Sure.
Then I have a smaller one just like it that will go on the layout itself. This will be in memory of my better half's mom and dad.
Oh,
So there will be a memory plaque up there. He actually did a picture. He was really into puzzles with another gentleman, and I didn't realize it until after I'd already gotten a lot of my stuff for the narrow gauge, that puzzle that he had put together was of a narrow gauge locomotive of the Denver and Rio Grande.
Oh, wow.
So that puzzle will go there, and then there'll be a little thing there in memory of. I'll have a couple of LED spotlights shining down onto it with a plaque, and then the other LED will be shining down on the actual logo for the layout room.
Will any of the structures and any of the be named after family members in your?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I do have a couple. Well, like Montgomery Junction is just right up above me, and you know, for Steve Montgomery, there will be a storyline to the layout. I have Landy's Lumber, a lot of stuff from my childhood. You know, what I've experienced. You know, in different areas and stuff, like, you know, fishing with my dad and stuff, where I grew up. Like I have a Lincoln Creek, which we grew up there in Duluth. We had a little creek. It was called Lincoln Creek. I used to play down in there all the time when I was a kid and go fishing and stuff. And so a lot of memory stuff, you know, that's going into it. I have, I believe it's Floyd's Oil, after my grandpa, my dad's dad, Floyd Penzimas, which he was also an engineer on the railroad also, along with my dad. And that's basically how I got into everything. You know, it's because of my dad and my grandpa, and it's just been a family thing. I just never thought I would actually be this involved with a train layout, you know, after all them years, you know.
Hanging out. Sometimes it's into your blood, you know, and then it just, you take it. That's good that you have some family, you know, it makes it personable and it's memorialized, and it, you know, and it has a story behind it. Which is
Yeah, you know, I really like it, and there's certain areas, you know, and that's why I'm freelancing. Nothing on here will be the Denver and Rio Grande. Maybe a few pieces of the rolling stock might stay as Denver and Rio Grande, but for the most part, I'm going to have my own fictitious names, you know, for the layout, which is the Pacific North. You know, it'll have its own logo. But as far as scenery is concerned, it's nothing geographical per se. It's just things that I happen to like. You know, the layout will be depicted in the fall scene. I love the colors of the fall, especially up north up here. So everything up here will be all in the fall colors.
That's great.
You know, just before, maybe some trees will be shedding leaves a little bit sooner than others, and maybe a little bit of snow and some ice, you know, in certain spots.
Well, I like this look. Mark Turner asks, Tight Bond, does that work on all materials, Steve?
Well, I use it on wood. Yeah, that's it right there. I was going to get my bottle. All my stuff is out in my wood shop right now. I've been building a doll house, so I got all my glue out there. But that's it right there, the premium glue. I don't use it on plastic or styrene. Yeah, that's a bunch. And I use other stuff for that, but 10X7R, I think, is what I use for styrene.
Yes, that stuff looks great.
Anything wood, most of my wood structures will be Tight Bond. Now, windows, something like that, if I'm putting that in, I'll use Elmer's glue. But I just keep several different types of glue available to me.
Now, when that dries, that Tight Bond, that dries clear, correct?
Yes. Yeah, basically clear. But again, only use it sparingly. Like what what I'll do is say, like if I'm making an upright, like for the structure of the a building, if I got to, you know, like you have, say, a 4x4 coming up, you got to come across with a 4x4 and glue that. The idea is you might, you know, you could kind of dimple the end of it to hold the glue too, and then put it together. That'll give you just a hair bit more glue, but it's not seen. Always wipe up with damp cloth or a Q-tip any excess glue. Very important. You don't want your glue to show.
Okay.
And if you build the structure, and if it's all wood and you brace it good, hard on you, unless you either drop it or you send it through the U.S. mail.
Right.
Yes,
right,
and we have had that problem with the U.S. mail. Only one time, though. Only once.
Yeah. Only one time.
Yeah, you get that kind of glue on the surface.
Still ain't figured out how they did that.
Yeah, if it's on the surface after you've glued it, it can seal the surface, so it won't take any further like staining or whatever you might want to do. So,
right.
Yeah, you want to avoid getting it on your surfaces, or like Steve said, wipe it off immediately with a damp cloth.
Yeah, any excess, it just makes your model look a lot better, you know. That's important.
AJ says you may be a
Bill.
modeler if you buy glue in gallon jugs. Andy
You
Crawford,
may be a fanatic.
yeah, Andy Crawford says, don't they sell it in 55-gallon drums?
Don't give him any ideas. He lives so far north, he's got to ship everything in.
I believe it. I believe
Pretty
it.
close. Pretty close.
Got to bring it in on dog sleds.
We got Wally's Weathering says, fantastic, Troy. Can you show us the area from the last time he was on and give us a bit of a walk around?
Okay. Yes, we'll do a little bit of both at the same time, the upper deck and the lower deck. This is the upper deck. This is part of Montgomery's Junction.
Let me preface this before when you move in the camera. If you've seen this before, and if you get a chance, go back to the I forget when we did this video, but there was nothing but this structure was built. This wood structure, this layout was just bare plywood. Some track was laid, but not a lot. I think at the time Troy put some flex track down on the thing just to give it some dimension and some compression look what was going on. But since that time, and how this came about was he was on in one afternoon, and I got on, and he gave me a little bit of a tour, and I immediately said, you got to get back on this show. So when you guys see this, if you haven't seen the first video, do yourselves a favor and go back to the first video, and you'll see what I'm talking about. But I firmly believe this is, like, as we say here in Brooklyn, it's off the hook.
Yeah, and since that last show, I believe all I had up and running was just the helix for the uppers and lowers was built, and the hidden staging area was complete, and a little bit on the east wall, and that was very little, with a harp switch stand sitting up in there. This is actually the opposite end of that same section, with the small engine house. This is all part of Montgomery Junction up here.
That engine house is beautiful.
Yes, this is a BTS kit that Steve built. He did a phenomenal job on this. I told him, you know, what I was looking for, and it has just that little bit of age to it, some broken boards and stuff. It just turned out perfect.
Hey, Steve, did
it
they
really
make that
did.
in O scale?
O scale?
Yeah.
They might. I think BTS does have O scale.
Yeah, they do.
I think they do.
I have to check that. I like
yeah,
that.
I think they do.
Hey, Troy.
Yes, sir.
Cool Tropopolis Model Railroad asks, can you put an HON3 train next to a structure?
I have a car. Let's see here now. Here is a reefer up next to another kit. That's an HO scale kit.
I know what will help.
Bill,
I've got an idea what might help. I'll be right back.
Montgomery's here is an HO scale building. What had to be done, though, is that we actually had to go and raise it up and put it up onto HO scale cork roadbed in order to go and get the dock height correct for that scene for Montgomery's.
Now, is Montgomery named after Stephen?
Yes, it is.
Oh, how did I know that?
Yes, it is. And when when this is the first kit that Steve did for me, and I'll tell you, this was
Barry. Are you looking at this kit?
Yes, I remember.
This was the moment. This was the moment of truth, and what entailed the work that I had ahead of me to go ahead and make Steve's work look even better with my scenery.
Yeah.
And this is right where my nerves are starting to come into play of trying to go ahead and get stuff to go ahead and look just perfect. This is an FSM kit. It's one of them George Celios kits, and I'm telling you, it was a beautiful kit. It really is. And of course, I'm playing around with kind of forced perspective here because this other building back here is only about an inch wide.
Oh, wow.
So it's not that wide. And so I'm kind of playing around with the trees and stuff, and the idea, of being able to force perspective and then go and make that structure look just a little bit smaller.
It actually works really good, Troy.
Yes,
and it does. And what really makes it is the outhouse sitting towards the back. If I bring the outhouse towards the front, in front of the building, it doesn't do it any justification, really, because the outhouse is small. So by moving it back just beyond the actual building, it makes it look that much smaller.
Yeah.
So it's amazing how everything kind of works out. So I've been really playing around with it before I really start up on scenery and what I want to do back there. So I know it is going to be some kind of a hill or a mountain back behind it. The whole layout is depicted upon around mountains. I love the mountain scenes.
And Mark Turner asked, that is a sharp layout. He said, do you already know how long of trains you will run, how many cars you will have running at one time?
I think max on my trains will probably be about 5-6 cars. Narrow gauge really didn't have to have big trains.
Right.
I could run big trains. This layout will handle big trains. And believe me, sitting up there on the phone with my dad, we turned around and I hooked up every car I had and pulled a little double header just to go and watch them going around the layout. And yeah, it's pretty cool. But that's not what this layout is about. This layout was built for operation. And that's what I want. I wanted operation. I wanted a nice looking layout. You know, when I grew up, looking at all my dad's model railroad magazines back when I was 3, 4, 5 years old, you know, it was just amazing how real everything looked. And then he started working down there at the Duluth Depot, and to see everything at eye level and how real everything looked, it was like you're almost, it was your own fantasy world, you know. And that's basically what I'm building. I'm building my own fantasy world.
Well, yeah, I agree with you. That's absolutely what model railroading is. You know, it is a fantasy derived from reality. You know, so yeah, that's a good. And now this is gonna. Your railroad is based on what? Around the 19th century.
Yeah, I wanted to stay back in the early 1900s. There is a couple of locomotives that I want to go ahead and get, which kind of puts me up a little bit later, but I don't have to always bring them out. So the C19s and the K27s, I got a couple of shays, you know, so I'm trying to stay right around that 1910, 1920 period, you know, where everything was old and stuff. They're still using, you know, the old horse and buggy and, you know, that kind of thing.
Wow.
You know, I want to try to stay away from vehicles a little bit.
Okay.
You know, back into the older days.
All right.
You know,
that's cool. So there'll be horse-drawn wagons as in used instead of paneled pickup trucks and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
So that right there is Montgomery Junction. That would be this whole area that comes up over here.
Michael Lambertino, I'm sorry, Mike, if I've mispronounced your last name, but Michael wants to know the top of your layout is made of what?
The very top?
No, I would assume what he's talking about is right there with the turntable is.
This is all homosote over plywood. I used 3/8 plywood with 1/2-inch homosote on everything. I feel that the homosote is a really great idea for sound deadening, and it really does make a difference.
Yes, I have it on my layout as well.
I did it in N scale. I did a plywood layout in N scale, and I'm telling you what, it was loud. And that's an N scale. Even if you ran the train slow, you could hear them. If you hit a piece of wood that had a little bit more glue in there, I mean, it'd have that real echoey sound to it. And man, I just really didn't like that. The trains now, when I'm running them at my own scale speed here, you can't even hear them without the sound on. You have no idea where the trains even are.
Yeah, I know. I have that on my layout. I put homosote as a sub-road there.
Yeah, and homosote's not cheap, but
No,
it's well worth it. I got 10 sheets of homosote, 10 sheets of plywood, and I'm not even gonna count all the 1x4s in this layout. There's just no way.
So now
there's a lot of it.
Now the top is where it actually starts, where the turntable is.
Yeah, the top of it actually it comes all the way down, just past right where them two track diagrams are. Those are just temporary right now. I do have the originals that Bill the track planner actually signed for me. It's his first narrow gauge layout that he designed. So the upper deck, this wall is pretty much all freestanding. I don't have that board up over there actually attached to the ceiling yet. So this wall, the only thing that's actually holding this wall up is 2 bolts. I got 1 bolt down there in one corner and then 1 bolt back up over here, and then the whole rest of it's all freestanding. So I got 2 bolts in the floor, nothing at the ceiling. Like I said, the board is up there, but I never put up a null bracket. I never screwed it to the joist or nothing up there at the top. So it's all freestanding. And in order to go ahead and get it all to work, and this was the big challenge of this whole build, was to go and get this one wall put up, because that wall right there is only 3.5 inches wide as it comes out for that section of the rail. So what I had to do is I actually used full sheets of plywood. So I had to go and build a shelf down below, and I used a full sheet that went from that edge coming all the way down for the full 8 foot. And then what I did was I staggered all the pieces, even the homosote. I staggered it. So this right here, what it did was it built up more strength. Yeah, I wasted some homosote, I wasted a little bit of plywood, but not that much. Because what happened was the plywood that I didn't use ended up going inside the helix when I built the helix. And I already had some of that stuff already kind of planned out from the actual track plan. So I mean, it worked out pretty good. Because this is all L girder. This layout is kind of a mixed combination between L girder and a form of box benchwork, which the box benchwork is down over here in the hidden staging for just a short section here on the peninsula, and then it goes right up into L girder, coming across throughout the whole rest of the direction. So the whole peninsula, everything else is all built up on L girder, even up underneath everything. It's all L girder benchwork.
Did you make that little wire holder that was under your layout there, with the reels of wire on it, Troy?
The rails of wire.
It was underneath, right from about where you're at, down on the floor.
Oh, let me see here now. I'm trying to see what the heck you were seeing.
It had red and black spools of wire on it. Under
Yeah, under
the peninsula. Yeah,
right there. Yeah, I built that up out of some scrap 2x4s that I had. Put a wooden dowel up in there.
I like that. I got to make one of them because those reels are pain in the butt to mangle around.
Yeah, they are. And all my reels are 1,000-foot spools. And this is my second 2 rolls that are up in here. No, wow. third spools. Third spools. Yes. Those are. I have pulled some reels, some wire up off of those, but I can honestly say that all my wiring is ran coming out of the actual control panel. It's all ran for all the track work. It's all there.
Could you take a minute from showing the layout to showing this control panel?
I love
well,
that
actually,
thing.
Which one would you want to look at? Because there's actually 2 control panels for this layout. This one is for the main track work. This panel here is all for the main track work. There is 4 DS64s in there and 6 PM42 power managers on this board. I have 24 protection zones for any type of short circuits. I've really broken everything down in this layout. And I'll tell you, even I really liked how I did it, because even if I laid a piece of rail down when I was building a turnout, you know, it was so quick to go ahead and find a short circuit. All of a sudden, I'll hear the click. I know what it is. I go down over here to the board. I look at the board. I say, oh, yeah, it's up over here. And it was really easy to go ahead and find. Prime example.
Excuse me, Troy. So what you're saying is that if the train should hit a piece of ballast and derail and shorts out somewhere, you will know exactly where it is.
Yes, I will know the section that it's in, which will really narrow it down.
You should have been an electrician, Troy. That's beautiful looking.
Look how nice and neat the bundle the wire is.
When I went to finish up the yard, I forgot to go and cut a gap in a rail in one of my turnouts. And it started going off. And I knew it was inside my yard. You know, so I shut the power down and I started going back through everything. I knew which two rails I just powered up. And then by the time I got down over there to the other turnout, I seen it right away. And it was within 5 minutes of being able to go ahead and find the actual short circuit and right where the gap was that was not cut.
Northern Star Railroad Line says, is the lift out that he made? It's a very simple design, but works great. You have a lift out?
Yes, I do. As a matter of fact, I just finished the lift out today. I kept it simple on the lift out. I had some, excuse me here. I had a 1/8" phono jack, and that's, you know, there it is. This is my 1/8" phono jack. This is all that powers up the whoops, there we go. That powers up the lift out, and it just plugs right on in. And then I have a micro switch that I've installed right here to go ahead and actually shut the rail off, which actually shuts the rail off coming back up over here by the yard. So if I actually pick up the lift out, that train just stopped. Hopefully you guys can see that. And as I put the lift out back in, it starts back up again. Now I have to install one more micro switch on the opposite side up over here so I can shut down the other section coming down up over here to the other freight house, which is Hugo's. And then that will, this way here, once, if that lift out is out, I have plenty of room in order for them trains to stop. It's about 8 feet coming down. from right where I have the actual double insulators, and I use double everything on this layout is all double insulated for all my protection zones.
Ron Bryce says that's some excellent wiring for that layout.
I try to keep it simple. My dad always said, keep it simple, stupid.
KISS.
Yes, keep it simple, stupid. And that has been the biggest thing for this layout. And Bill, you have said to me many times, you overthink things, in which I do. And I'm very guilty of overthinking a lot of things on this layout. But I was trying to always think ahead, and even when I thought I had, I really didn't. What I did was, when I built this layout, I had my Digitrax DS64s for turnout control off my old layout. I did keep 4 of them. I got rid of the rest because I ended up going with the NCE Switch 8s. And what I ended up doing was I ended up mounting them, one right up underneath, right where the one depot is, on the upper deck for all them turnouts over there. And now that I got the upper lights put in, I can't access it quite as easy as what I used to be able to. So I was not thinking when I mounted it. So no, all the other Switch 8s are mounted underneath the layout. And the reason why I went to Switch 8s, and even with the DS64s, I ended up going with reed switches to go ahead and operate all my turnouts. I wanted a nice clean fascia. Andy Crawford and I.
Could you show us one of those reed switches that you've done? That's a pretty interesting thing.
Yeah, let me turn my computer around here. My computer is actually up on a stand, so I can wheel it on around down here inside the basement. I tried keeping everything uniform for all my reed switch positioning. So all my reed switches are located straight off of a throw bar. And if there's a throw bar that was too far of a reach where you're going to reach over any other one, it would be up towards the edge of the layout. So if I wanted to throw a switch, I would just go ahead and wipe the magnet coming across the reed switch, and it'll automatically turn the throw bar. I don't know if you guys can see that or not.
Yeah, that's the servo under there, Troy?
That's all tortoise switch machines.
Oh, tortoises. Okay.
Yep, I ran tortoises on everything on this layout. Up underneath is kind of a mess of wiring, but there's really no way to keep it clean with a whole bunch of wires that are coming up through here. Some of the stuff I am able to.
Ralph Franzetti wants to know, will you be using Keep Alive circuits in your locos? And if so, the dead track won't help.
The dead track will help. Being that you've gone back far enough, depending upon the Keep Alive. Some Keep Alives actually last longer than others, and I don't plan on going with the big Keep Alive. And I don't think
last time too.
Yeah, and I don't think I'm going to use a Keep Alive. Now this layout hasn't been cleaned in almost a year, and I was able to come down here and I actually cleaned the rail off for the first time just for tonight, and I barely pulled up any dirt up off this layout. It was actually really clean.
How'd you manage to keep the dust down?
Number one was the ceiling. Okay, I finished off the ceiling tiles. The ceiling was actually open. I had a big open spot up through here. I finished off the ceiling tiles on the other side of the basement as well. And then keeping the moisture down in the basement really helped out. It's pretty controlled. I stay at about 40% humidity down here inside this basement pretty consistently. And I use the vacuum in everything. I don't sweep. I use the vacuum on everything. And I think it's really, really helped out with everything that's going on, for this basement, number one. And number two, I think that the valances actually really do a lot of help for any kind of dust that's getting down there inside, on top of the rails. So if you look down the edges, my upper valance is level with the lower valance. And it's like that throughout the entire layout just about, except for the yard area. The yard area, the upper deck actually sits closer in for that upper valance.
Michael Lombartino wants to know, how do you plan to do scenery with pink foam?
Pink foam and I are kind of mortal enemies. But because I tried it once in N scale, the guys were kind of laughing at me because I had the whole floor filled with foam. However, I have found a couple neat ideas with using pink foam and a cardboard technique. So I'll probably end up using quite a few different techniques on this layout as far as my scenery is concerned. All my tunnels that I'll have up on here will more than likely be made up out of pink foam or blue foam, depending upon where you get it at. Because I want all my tunnels to be accessible. I don't want them to not be accessible, because if you ever have a derailment or track needs to be fixed up in there, or a bad feeder wire or a derailment, whatever the case may be, I want everything to go ahead and be accessible on this layout. Especially like this section right here, which is actually heading down inside the helix. The actual tunnel sits back quite a ways from right where it actually goes into the helix for this upper scene. So what I'll end up doing is I'll actually build the whole section up out of styrofoam, so I can actually be able to take the section right up and out of there and be able to clean the track, because I can't access it from inside of the actual helix. It's quite the reach, to say the least, to try to get up through there. It's not a small helix.
Now, may I ask a question? On this shot here that you're showing us where this is going into the helix, in between the rails, I see that you have some washers and screws attached. May I ask what that is for?
Inside my helix and my staging are all made with micro-engineering flex track. That's the only flex track on the entire layout, is for the helix, because this is a double stacked helix, and my staging. That's all flex track. All the main lines, anything that is visible, is all hand laid. I did not glue it down. I went ahead and I put screws up in there with washers. Everything is actually, if there's any kind of expansion up in there, they will flex, but all this track is soldered together.
So it's used basically as an expansion.
Yes, my whole helix is full floating.
Okay.
So if anything happens to go up inside there, even all the levels are actually full floating. What I did was, when I built my uprights actually have boards up in between everything, so that each level, I can actually take this helix and actually take it right on apart and collapse it down like an accordion. I'm going to see if I can get you guys up inside of there, and I'll show you guys the helix, because my dad's amazed by it. I did my N-scale helix the same way. DeBob's actually is the one who picked up my other helix, and it turned out really nice. And especially when he picked it up, it folded up like an accordion. It fit right in the back of his truck with no problems. But that is the helix. The wiring is done north and south, east and west. The upper helix is north and south wiring. The lower helix is east and west wiring. So you can actually see, and know exactly right where everything is for all the wiring. And all my wiring on this whole layout is all done with a direct home wiring system. Everything goes right back to the control panel.
That was all the track laid on that helix?
Yes, this helix is fully complete. This is the first complete section of the entire layout, was my helix. Helix and hidden staging. And when I first started building it, I wanted to go ahead and drop it down, because the original height of the upper deck was 64 inches. And I want to go ahead and drop it down to about 62 inches, because then other people would be able to go and see the upper deck a little bit easier. So I figured if I went ahead and I dropped everything down a little bit, it would have worked out. Well, when I started building everything, and knowing that I had L girder, I had to go ahead and drop it down a little bit more. But then when I built the helix and added in all my wraps, I still come out at 44.5 and 63.5. So I was only shorter by a half of an inch, and by dropping the actual lower staging level down in order to go ahead and get all the clearances that I need. Otherwise, I wasn't going to have the clearance to be able to reach up inside there to go ahead and work on any derailments or anything else. I wanted a nice wide open, an opening, for everything, so that a guy could actually, reach up inside of here and get over cars without having to hit other cars. The staging area should hold about 90 cars.
You have that many cars?
No.
Okay.
No, I haven't even started really collecting. As you can see way over there, there is a bunch of kits. And that's the other reason why I'm excited now, because now I can kind of relax, work on some scenery, work on some buildings, work on some kits, not have to worry so much about laying track anymore. Now it's time to do some fun.
Now, let me ask you another question here. This layout, is it going to be designed also to do nighttime running?
Yes. Yes.
And will most of the buildings be lit?
All of my buildings will end up being lit up for the nighttime running. These panels here, all these power panels, I brought my own 15 amp service into the house right here, so I can hit the master switch and shut down this entire room entirely. The top 3 are for my turnouts in buildings, and then the bottom 4 are all for all my LEDs for all my lighting. I have a master switch which I just put in just for my building lights, so I can shut my building lights off, turn them on. My staging area is actually just done up with just a simple plug-in. I used rope lights for all my staging, so it's got a nice glow. It's a warm white, so it's not all that bright, but yet you can still see what's going on inside the staging area if need be. And then for the rest of the lights, I used they're regular LED dimmer switches for everything. So I have my lower deck, and then I have my upper deck. The daylight is always in the center too, so I can actually go ahead and be able to turn down all of my lighting and be able to get it right down.
Wow.
And which is kind of tough to see right now with all the other lights on. I get this one desk light off. And it's actually pretty dark in here. The video camera does not do it any justification whatsoever.
It never does.
I can still see everything, but you guys probably can't.
All we see is the lights, pretty much.
So now if I turn up some blue lights a little bit more.
There we go. Now we see the track.
And that's the problem, because you know, blue lights really do not like video cameras at all. No. And the thing that I found out though is that when the blue lights are on, you have to wash out some of the blue, because otherwise it really makes your eyes go funky if you use just blue. And you can't see anything. You can't read the car numbers. You can't read anything.
Could you show Steve's what was that he built that you lit up?
Sawmill?
Yeah, the sawmill. We haven't seen the sawmill that Steve built.
Yeah, let me adjust these upper deck lights.
And there's the engine with the light on it. I love this layout, Troy.
Yeah, really.
Oh, Mike, Steven, as he's getting ready to do that, Steven, Mike Lambertino wanted to know what products you used for your scenery. I would assume he's inquiring about, did you use pink foam and cardboard strips and other such?
Oh, on my layout, I used a combination of the cardboard strips overlaid with plaster, paper, you know, soaked in plaster. I used foam. All depended on what effect I was trying to get and how big of an area I had. So I've got multiple different stuff on my layout. I didn't stick with just one.
Which you guys probably can't even see that yet. And I think this is the first time that Steve has even seen this since it's been lit up.
Oh.
And
ta-da!
And there is the sawmill.
Wow. Yeah, that's different.
When I got this from Steve, it was a pretty clean sawmill. So what I've done is I sifted through a bunch of sawdust that I had here, made my own sawdust. I tinted some sawdust, and I made it so it looked like he was this sawmiller here had been working for the day. The other guy is a little bit upset because the air ducts are kind of messed up right now. He can't go ahead and be able to get all the sawdust out, and the saw's kind of plugged up right now with all the sawdust. I added some other weathering in the back across on the floor because of the burners and stuff, and so I added some black to the bottoms of the floor so it looks a little bit more worn out. Coming up through everything. I ended up putting 10 LEDs inside this structure. And I must say, it was a learning experience, and it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it.
That looks really nice.
I really enjoyed putting these LEDs up inside of here.
Steve, Dave wants to know what color or colors did you stain the Sawmill, and what did you use to weather if you did?
Ooh. Wow, that's been a while. I used, let's see. Who was that made, they used to have stains out. There were the small bottles. You can't get them anymore. Now I use, what's that stuff we use, Troy? That
Hunterline.
Hunterline now.
Yep.
And then,
it's my favorite too.
Yep. Real good stuff. And then to wash everything out, I made up an India ink alcohol mixture that it's my go-to for the final coat on everything. That kind of dulls everything down a little bit and kind of blends everything together, gives it an aged look. Depending on, you can add, you can do it a couple times. It gets it darker or lighter just for newer wood. But I try to, once I get everything stained or painted, then I kind of go over it with my India ink alcohol wash. That's pretty much of a standard thing people use, I believe. And it works real good. It brings out the, one thing you do too is take a, like an X-Acto knife, or I have a saw similar to an X-Acto, and I will run it across the wood for grain. And then I go in, and sometimes what I do is put a real light, dark, real light of my India ink stain on it. Then I go back over it with my weathering or my staining. And that way I get that dark down in the grooves of the wood a little bit. So
they're saying the flow quill would be the thing I think you were trying.
Flow quill. Right. I used to have some of that, and I'm about out of it, so I went to the Hunterline. In fact, Troy told me about the Hunterline. I said, well, I'll try it. Got a couple bottles. Now I've got a shelf full of them, so I highly recommend them.
Yeah.
Dave wants to know, Troy, what type of LED and warmth of LED are you using?
I use the warm white LEDs, and they're the 0403s. I did not get pre-wired ones. I did order some ones that were pre-wired, and I think what they did is they actually put hot glue over the ends of them, and they made them really big and bulky. You couldn't do nothing with them. So what I did with those ones was I actually used the warm white, the pre-wired ones inside of Montgomery's, in which you guys can't quite see because of the lighting right now. I actually have to turn up the lighting here just a little bit on the upper deck. So I used them ones on the inside because the way that the way that Montgomery's was built, I couldn't actually go ahead and light up all the rooms that were inside of there. Hopefully, I don't know if you guys can see that building or not now.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so that's what I did was there's just a couple of bulbs, and actually it's just temporary right now. You can actually see, well, maybe you guys can't, but if you look through that one window right there, you can actually see the one bulb sitting up inside of there. All I have is just a hole drilled through the bottom of it, and there's the warm white that are pre-wired with all that glue and stuff on them. It's actually sitting up inside of there, inside of two separate sections of the house. And then eventually I will go ahead and run the wiring and get the outside lights actually hooked up, the one that's on the house, and then up underneath inside this awning right here, I'll put 1 or 2 LEDs up underneath the awning as well. The structure in the background, I don't know if I'm going to light that one up yet because I don't know if that's going to kind of play around with the forced perspective or not. I'll probably end up putting one in there just to try it out, but I'm not sure if it'll end up staying or not.
Hey,
So
Troy,
time will tell.
LEDs from?
eBay.
eBay.
I bought 1,000 LEDs for like $10, I think, or $7 or something like that.
And you hand solder 0402s.
Yes.
Bless
Yes,
your
it's
soul.
very time consuming. It really wasn't that bad. Once I had done up about 3 of them, I got used to it. What I had to use was a special locking pair of tweezers, and then what I did was is I notched out a block of wood to be able to hold the tweezers. So I basically made like an L-shaped block to hold the tweezers flat onto another piece of board. And this way here, when I went to solder them up, it would hold it nice and tight. I can solder both leads on at the same time and be able to pre-wire them.
I can't even see the polarity markings in those dang things. I don't know how I would even solder them.
I just used a big magnifying glass, and so you can actually see them. And even if you don't, you can take a volt ohm meter and use it in a what is that, continuity test?
Yeah, yeah.
To be able to test, you know how you get that sound for a short circuit.
Yeah, yeah.
What it will do is, if the polarity is right, it is enough power to actually light up the LED if the terminals are correct.
Oh, okay.
It's just enough to go and make that LED go ahead and glow. So if you can't see them, you can go ahead and use it that way. And I had no idea that I would actually do that until I started reading some articles on it. And I was like, really, that does that? So then I went ahead and I took a couple out and tried it out. Oh, hey, this is pretty cool. I like this.
Yeah, I actually keep a 3-volt button cell on my desk, but all the ones I bought were pre-wired and they had red and green wires, so I could tell. I got them pretty cheap through Evans Lighting. But you got to buy a bulk quantity, you know, and still it's like, you know, 200 of them is like, you know, $1 or something a piece. So.
Oh no! I picked up 500 of the things for like $10, I think, off of eBay.
I have to learn how to solder them stupid things, man.
Yeah, it's really not that bad. Your first few that you do, you're kind of cussing at yourself, like, what the heck am I doing here? Why am I doing this? And then after that, it starts to get a lot easier. The magnet wire really helps out. I use a pair of tweezers with the magnet wire also, and pre-bend it so it's, you know, getting on there just right. And what I do is I actually tin the magnet wire first. I'll tin the magnet wire, I'll tin the LED, and then I'll go ahead and attach it.
Wally's Weathering says, boy, that really looks great, Troy. And Dave wants to know, do you still need resistors with those LEDs?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. As a matter of fact, these ones are ran with 3,000 ohms of resistance for those 2 lights that are inside this house right now. And that's running off a 12-volt power supply.
Oh, okay.
That comes off from up underneath the layout. I have a master connection over here. Everything will all be run off 12-volt power supply. And even the Sawmill was done with 3,000 ohms of resistance. And it's actually quite a bit brighter, but there's also a lot more LEDs up in there.
Yeah.
Ron Bryce of Australia says, the 9-volt battery with a resistor on it is an easy tester for small LEDs.
Yes.
Hey, Bill, it's about 10 after 11 right now. If you want to run through the giveaways again.
Yes, let's do that. Let's not keep our community of model railroaders and enthusiasts waiting any longer. Let's show them what we're giving away today.
All right.
Oh, excuse me for yawning. It's been a busy day for me. I've been working on my layout all day. It's exhausting.
It does get tiring at times.
It does. It does. You know, I had breakfast this morning and then went right into the layout room, and you know, you start dabbling and, you know, futzing around, and next thing you know, you're playing trains and working on things and cleaning rail and stuff like that. So.
And then I bet you there's days where you're not even tired and you just keep right on plugging away.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Well, our first giveaway is from White River Production. It's giving away a free 3-month subscription to Railroad Model Craftsman. Anyone who wins this, you'll need to send me your name and address, telephone number, and email address, and I will send it out to White River Productions, and they will send you a free 3-month subscription. And if you like it, you can subscribe to them. So that's the first giveaway. Always bringing you the best in model railroading since 1933. Railroad model craftsman. And our second giveaway is the punch plate bridge kit from Central Valley Model Works. It's a 150-foot scale bridge punch plate bridge kit. And it's from our good friends of Jeff and Heather from cvmw.com. Go check out their website. They have plenty of stuff to offer and other great stuff to purchase if you so desire. Good stuff. This is one of our most sought after prizes tonight. But I think Mr. Renzetti's, Ralph Renzetti's DVD is going to be in hot pursuit of that punch plate. And our good friend Dave from Dave's Decals, Models, Decals, and Stuff. Your choice of 2 sheets from Dave's Decals if you win. Also, if you need any custom-made decals, any decals at all, he recently made me up a decal I had seen printed on the side of a building out here in downtown Brooklyn. I sent him the photo of it, and he was more than happy to send it to me back in HO scale so I can put on the side of one of my buildings. So he has a lot of products. So go check out his site at daveart.net. And the winner of this will get 2 choices of 2 sheets. And our next giveaway is from, I believe, Weathering Solutions. Yeah. Weathering Solutions. So our good friend Eric. He's giving away, I believe there's 3 sheets of any of these, the graffiti, the rust stains, oil stains. If you don't want to use the time-consuming effort of painting them on and breaking out the oil paints with the terp and everything else, you can dip this in water and apply it, and they're pretty good. They're pretty good. I use them on some of my rail box cars, rolling stock, and I also been extensively using the graffiti since I'm doing 1970s, 75 in New York, so graffiti was all over the place, an explosion of it. So I've been using them, and they're pretty good, pretty good once you get them up there. So good stuff. So 3 sheets of these weathering decals from Weathering Solutions. And that would be our good friend Ralph Renzetti. Ralph Renzetti, enjoy this DVD provided by our own Ralph Renzetti on extreme weathering of locomotives and rolling stock. This DVD is from the show Ralph did for Trainmasters TV. Also, Ralph will be hosting his own show October 24th called Bench to Mainline. It will be a weathering show, and you'd want to tune in for that. That's October 24th. That's a Tuesday night, and that's at 8 p.m. Central Time, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. And Ralph will be doing Bench to Mainline. So that is our giveaways. If you want to open it up to them to put their email address in and give them the code.
All right. So the code tonight is going to be SBK, Sam, Bill, Kevin, all lowercase, SBK. And the location is live for you to sign up. So on the screen coming up here.
Yeah, tell them what they want, Barry. Yes. Just want to give.
It's actually, excuse me, the site's active now, but folks, remember it's SBK.
Lowercase SBK.
Yeah, I'll put it into SBK. It's in the chat, folks. Yep, just like Johnny just put in there.
Yeah, SBK. It's South Brooklyn. I had to get my plug in there. Sorry. Just so that you guys know, next month on the November show, 18th, we're having the Lofty N Scale. That's Curtis. He's a new guy to YouTube model building. He's building an N scale layout in a loft, a very tiny loft. You should go check out his channel. It's called the Lofty N Scaler. His name is Curtis, and he's getting back into the hobby and building an N scale. And then for the December live show, we have a surprise guest. I won't tell you, because if I told you, then it wouldn't be a surprise anymore.
We'd have to kill him then.
Nah, we just have to disconnect everybody's computer who's on this. But we're having a surprise guest in December for the December show of 2017.
Make sure you all show up and tell all your friends in the community. Be there for the December show.
Yeah, and like I said, November's show, which will air. Let's take this one step at a time. November. I'm going to my calendar. That's why you see me leaning forward. The 18th, November 18th, the Lofty N Scaler. Curtis, go check out his YouTube channel. He's really good. He's a commercial photographer by trade, so he does some really nifty camera work when he's doing his video. Yes, very nice stuff, and he's very entertaining gentleman. So this is a new venture, and we're always like to see new ventures. So we're going to do that as well. And also, just to give you some homework while you guys are filling out that giveaway form there, October 24th, I just mentioned back bench to mainline with Ralph Renzetti and Weathering. That's the 24th at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then in November 1, we have the Adreno Workshop. And then on the 14th of November, the fine scale model build, the fine scale build. And then on the 15th of November, into the locomotive shop with Joe Desmond. If anybody, Barry, if anybody, we've done 2 shows so far with Joe Desmond, and I think they've been a rave hit. Yes, if you haven't seen it, check it out. He takes N scale and he puts a DCC decoder in, and then he goes through the weathering process of it, and he gives it detail by detail. So, and Joe's very enthusiastic and very passionate.
I mean, he's doing fantastic work in N scale, and he goes through all the details of tearing the engines down and all the pitfalls to watch for.
Absolutely,
weathering on engines like that. So,
and then again, we have on November 18th, yours truly, live show with Lofty N Scaler. And then November 28th, part 2 of Ralph Renzetti's Bench to Mainline. And that's it for November. I'm not going to get into December because that's too far away. But November's right around the corner. And we're coming up at the end of October as we speak now. But, that's what we're doing here. We're trying to get back to the basics, cameras to benches, showing you guys what we're doing, what you're doing, how you're doing it, why you're doing it, and in the meantime, trying to entertain you as well and keeping it real, as they say.
We'll be talking about the model building and YouTube model builders.
Right, we will be. We will be, and we're trying to get some YouTubers out there as well. Curtis is one of them. And Troy, you haven't been making any videos, have you, for your YouTube channel?
I haven't done any in a while. But there is one, and I was just going to go ahead and explain it here in just a second of why I was going to NCE for all my switch controls. Eventually, I will go ahead and start getting some up there since I've gotten the whole reed switches all figured out and all the flaws and bugs worked up out of them. I have a locomotive that's sitting here. My points are actually in the wrong direction. Now, with the NCE switch 8s and the optional button board, you can actually go ahead and run it in DC mode. However, even though it's in DC mode, you can still have track power wired up to it and still run the turnouts through DCC. If this makes any sense, it's kind of confusing. So being that it's in DC mode, I can run against the points, and being that my frogs are all powered up, this locomotive will short circuit and now it's just going to stop because of the short circuit. I now have a flash down here on my board. It's showing me that it's in my lumber yard, heading off to my lumber facility. Now, even though that this is all, you know, controlled with the PM42 power managers, however, if you run a NCE switch 8 off DCC mode, you would not be able to go ahead and be able to turn this turnout. Why? Because it's now inside of a short circuit mode. However, now that it's in DC mode, I can still walk up over here and hold on a second here. It's going to make an ass out of me. Excuse my English. Now I just went ahead, I threw the points, and now it cleared the short circuit, and now my locomotive is now moving.
So the switch it's running off of DC power, but the track is still DCC power.
Exactly. And I can still be able to go ahead and throw that turnout with the DCC function, even though the NCE switch 8 is in DC mode.
Right.
And that was one of the big things.
Brilliant.
Yeah, I have the same thing with the Tam Valley.
Brilliant.
Tam Valley,
Yeah,
you
so
can power it that way. And like when we have a short in our club layout, the whole section down by Lehman Place Junction, I lose control of all the turnouts because the board that runs the 4 turnouts down there is powered by track power. So
exactly. So once you have
5
that
volts and then, or 5 volt DC, and then I'll fix that problem.
Yeah, so I mean, with that being said, I can go ahead and run against the points and still be able to go and throw them turnouts, and there's no problems.
Hey, Troy.
Yes, sir.
Ralph Renzetti said put $1 in the curse jar.
I probably have about $50 in the curse jar from this layout.
Listen, at the end of the year, we're going to take the curse jar and we're all going to go out to get pizza. I got a fortune in that curse jar.
Well, I got about $50 in there after building.
There we go. That's a night out for Chinese food. There you go.
That sounds like a plan. Yeah, it really does.
Hey, the Lofty End Scaler is watching. He says, woot, woot. Hey, Curtis, nice to see you on here. We'll see you next month, brother. AJ says Santa Claus, CLAWS.
That's for our December guest, according to him.
Oh, yes. No. And let's see. Duncan Aesop says, South Brooklyn K-Train. Nah, the K-Train hasn't been running for years now. Ralph Renzetti put $1. Yes, bonus. Mike I'm sorry, Michael. It's a nice Italian name, too, and I hate screwing it up.
Lambertino.
Lambertino. Barry, where are you located? Are you in PA? He wants to know.
No, I'm in South Jersey, Michael. So I'm about 45 minutes northwest of Atlantic City in Vineland. So, but I go out to PA quite frequently because our club is modeled to Strasburg Railroad, and my good friend Mike lives out that way. So he lives out in Exton. So yeah, Strasburg is our club is modeled the entire railroad on HO scale. It's a bill scene. It's a 117-foot behemoth we carry around from Greenberg show to Greenberg show.
Wow.
Andy Crawford says, I could buy 5-star meals for the whole community with my contribution to the kitchen.
Thanks, Andy.
That's because he's using fish plates and dye and all that stuff in HO scale. He's probably going insane doing that.
And Ron Bryce from Down Under says, only $50, Troy? That's it?
Yeah, actually, I've been doing pretty darn good with this layout.
Curtis says, hi, y'all. He says, you bet. I'm going to see him next month. Thank you, Curtis.
So, Bill, we're leveling off right here. I haven't seen any new hits jump on board. So, do you want to call this one?
Well, Michael Bertino says, okay, I'm in West Bradford, Pennsylvania, Downingtown, PA.
Oh, yeah, you're right, Neil, near my friend Mike Dettinger. Yeah, Exton, that's where Mike Dettinger lives.
Right.
We might have to, you have to send me, I'll put my email up in there, Michael. Send me an email.
Got to check out they got club layout there, Mike. He's got a good thing. Got a nice bunch of guys, too, over there. And the Bob's, the N-Scale Man Cave says, hi, Troy.
How's it going, Bob?
There you go. And don't forget, Magazine next month is all dedicated to you N-Scalers out there. So I guess all us HO guys won't be watching it or looking at it.
We all going to be reading it.
I guess we'll have to find something else. Have to get my old model railroad hobbyist things out.
Bite your tongue, Bill. Well, we are still leveled out the same number there, Bill. So shall we go?
Let's call it. Let's call it. Let's do this. Let's
hear the winners.
Yeah, let's hear who won.
Picking winners now. All right, so I'm staring at the list of winners here. So, for giveaway 1, the Railroad Model Craftsman 3-month subscription is Jonathan Knopfel. So, congratulations, Jonathan.
Jonathan who?
Knopfel, Knopfle.
I think he's won before. He's pretty lucky guy, Jonathan.
Yes. And Mr. Jason Volk, big member of our community, is won giveaway 2, which is the HO or N scale punch plate bridge.
Oh, look at that.
And then for giveaway 3, which is Dave's fabulous decal selection, as you say, Bill, a plethora of decals. That is Kenneth Amos.
Oh, shoot, I was hoping it was me.
And giveaway 4. And this is hysterical. Giveaway 4 is our Weathering Solutions decal set.
Yes.
It goes to Wally's Weathering, Todd Walton.
Wally's Weathering, Todd.
Nice. And giveaway 5, the Weathering DVD from our esteemed Ralph Renzetti, is going to AJ Kleinpass. So congratulations to all of our winners tonight.
Yes. Thank you so much for entering and being a part of this. Greatly appreciate it. Let's see if we have anything. Some eye candy and an article from Ralph Renzetti, log and logos.
Yeah, nice.
Let's see. I do need to come up and see this layout of yours tries. There'll be additional log and logos. JD, the editor-in-chief, says there will be additional items in addition to N-Scale in the e-magazine. Sure, that's what he says now, but once it comes looking forward to being
Al Moore.
The Lofty N-Skeller says, looking forward to being on the show. Ron's trains and things. Hey, DeBob, I haven't seen you in a while. Have a funny story for you next time I see you in the Imperial room. Let's see. There we go. Wally's Weathering after winning. He says, bada bing, bada boom. Al Mar congratulates all. Well done to all the lucky winners. Congrats to everybody. Well, there you go. Well, gentlemen, Troy, first and foremost, let me thank you very much for allowing us into your home and into your domain there to show us the update of this. And I'm sure we'll be doing many more of these as the months come by, as you start doing more of it. Thank you so very, very much.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Oh, no, it was our pleasure. Absolutely our honor to have you on. It really was. And Steve, thank you again so much for being gracious with your time and allowing us to come in and bother you and say, hey, can you be on our show? Can you be on our show? Please, please be on our show. Please, please, please. And you've been so kind and generous with us. Such a, no, it really
appreciate the invitation. Always a pleasure.
You know, I have to tell you that the best part of my job here is being the moderator. That is also the best part. But prior to it, I get to talk to these guys one-on-one. And I have to tell you, in years of doing this, each and every one of you guys out there who's been on this show and that I had the opportunity to talk to with on the phone, you've absolutely been a pleasure to talk with, and you just chock full of information, and you're willing to give of yourself and your time. And I just want to let you guys know that I greatly appreciate it. Troy, Steve, and the rest of the community, you guys do a really great job of keeping this hobby up front and alive, and I hope that we can contribute a little bit to it to get the word out there. So thank you, Troy, and thank you, Steve, very much for being a part of this.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you, Steve, for coming on, and for all the buildings. They're beautiful.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, yes.
I just hope I can do my scenery justice for them buildings, because they are spectacular.
Steve, just before we leave, can you show us the building that's on your coffee table?
Oh, yeah, it's the latest one I did here.
Wait for this, folks. I think the buildings on Troy's were good. Wait till you see this one.
This is the Point of Rock station in Point of Rocks, Maryland.
Oh, baby.
What?
Check that puppy out.
That's
It's just beautiful.
yeah, that
Awesome.
was a Model Tech Studio resin kit, and I don't recommend a resin kit. And that was a bear. But it finally all came together. Divine intervention, I call it. But yeah, it's
Wow.
beautiful station.
I could picture that thing all lit up.
Oh man, that is fantastic.
You and your lights. So I don't put lights on the Carroll Valley because I just never really got into lights. And when people ask me, I just tell them our crews are scared of the dark.
That's a fantastic.
They always
response.
got to have an answer. But anyway, that's my latest one right there. So
Thank you very
turned
much.
out.
Thank you for sharing
Really
that one,
good.
Steve.
Thank you. So I got Troy just sent me a couple more buildings, so I know what I'll be doing this winter.
Hey,
Once I
Steve,
get this dowel house,
Jim,
I got to get this dowel house finished. I'm building for my
There you
sister,
go.
and then back to railroads.
Hey, there's not much left now, Steve.
So, what's
Almost
that?
on a downhill swing after you hit that coaling station. That's probably going to be the biggest build of all.
Yeah, that's going to be a big one. So
Well, thank you, gentlemen. And Barry, once again, Director Extraordinaire, thank you very
my
much.
friend. Thank you very much. And
Thank
thank
you.
Bill.
Assistance and putting this all together. And to the community out there, just want to say thank you, because without you, we don't have a show. So keep
Exactly.
coming back. Take care. God bless. And we'll see you guys on the radio. Be well.
Absolutely, folks.
Thanks, guys.
good night. Thank you.